Good afternoon, everybody. Today I'm joined with Steve Stakiw from Element 29 Resources. In this interview, I ask Steve about his thesis on copper. We also get into Element 29, what the company has in terms of their assets, what they plan to do in 2024. And guys, I think that this company is really interesting if you like to value your junior stocks on a relative basis. In terms of pounds in the ground relative to market cap, I think that Element 29 is about as exciting as it gets. And guys, we also discuss what the mining environment is like in Peru in terms of the risks that you may think about if you are an investor in junior mining stocks. All right, everybody, enjoy the interview. Steve, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for the opportunity.
So whenever we have CEOs of copper companies on, I love to ask them about what gets them excited about copper. So when you get up in the morning, I'm sure that you're saying, okay, I'm CEO of a publicly traded company that is focused on copper. I'm basically essentially betting my life on copper. What is it, the things that you think about that get you excited about the future of copper as a commodity?
Well, yeah, other than checking the spot price when I get up, but other than looking at, really just looking at news, seeing what influences, kind of the macro thesis on the commodity. Obviously, the outlook for copper is quite good in terms of demand and declining supply. But obviously, we've recently seen some, significant events that can affect that. In terms of supply coming offline and demand starting to look a little stronger and sooner. So certainly good macro fundamentals like that really reinforce what I see as the opportunity in the metal and specifically for Element 29 Resources.
Now, obviously, you being a CEO in the junior space, I have to ask, what's the sense you're getting when you're talking to investors? Personally, what I see that's happening is I feel like December is kind of the low. I'm talking about December 2023. If you're watching this in the future, is kind of the low for what's been a really, we'll essentially call it a lull period here in the junior markets. I feel like there's a lot of tax loss selling going on, and companies are a little quiet to bring out their news flow. They're waiting for things to turn, and I'm really optimistic about January and 2024 because I get the sense that we're about to see things start to rev up, after what's essentially been a decline in the Canadian juniors since February of 2021. What are your thoughts based on the people you're talking to and sort of the data that you're reading?
I share that sentiment, in terms of what I see, in that optimism, and as do a lot of my colleagues and peers that I, typically chat with as well. Certainly, I think it's more than just optimism. Certainly there's fundamentals that make it really look like, next year is going to start to improve. Obviously from a commodity pricing perspective, but just overall sentiment, I think in the resource sector, it is bad. The last couple of years, I concur, is probably the worst I've seen in my 30 plus year career in the sector. So, I think we're all due, and certainly I think things do come around as we've seen. It is a cyclical industry, and I think we've seen the lows in the rearview mirror at this point.
It's the first time we've had you on. I have to ask about Element 29. Can you give us a high level overview of the company?
Certainly. Element 29 Resources, we're a copper-focused exploration and development company. We are focused on Peru as a jurisdiction. We like that. We like Peru as a place to be, exploring for and developing copper projects. We're base metal focused team. That's what's in our DNA. It's what we've worked on, and the team has taken projects from exploration stage through to production in previous lives, if you want to call it that. What we have is we have 4 projects, 2 of which are kind of what we call our co-flagship projects in the country. That would be our Ela copper deposit and our Florida Cobra copper project as well. So it's kind of, there's a real advantage to having 2 advanced stage projects, certainly in terms of the nature of mineral exploration. But we've had great success on both. We've drilled both projects. We've put out an initial resource on one, and we've been advancing the other one at this stage, and we see additional opportunities for not only resource growth, but new discovery on both of these projects as well. And it's important to mention, I think, the projects that we have, these are all new discoveries by our team, the group that put Element 29 together. We are a fairly new company. We've only been public, for 3 years, since December of 2020. So I think we've accomplished a lot in a very short period of time. And the projects I find are really quite, there's a lot of, strong attributes to them. They're, not only new discoveries, but they're in great locations and areas within the country. There's no, there's no flags on, in terms of metallurgical issues. And from a community perspective, we're in great areas. We're at lower elevation. There's no land use competition. And we've maintained extremely good, strong, positive relationships with the local communities and stakeholders. So in our mind, that really de-risks the opportunity to continue to advance our projects and certainly see them advance towards that production path.
So what sort of size in terms of resource do you think you need to achieve in order for the projects to be considered economic to actually hit the production stage?
I think that's there's variable answers to that one. I'll just, highlight what we have currently at Elida. We just came out with our initial resource just about a year ago. And that's, 322 million tons of 0.32% copper. But there's also some strong co-products or byproducts. There's a significant molybdenum component, 0.03% molybdenum, and just over 2.5 grams per ton silver in that. So, pretty significant. What that means, what does that mean for, in terms of the amount of copper? Well, that's about 2.2 billion pounds of contained copper, or about 1 million tons. That is significant. That's a lot of copper. But we do see the opportunity to grow that. If you look at many of these big copper porphyry systems, they can be, several hundred million tons to billions of tons in size. And we see an opportunity for that at Elida, and then likewise at some of our targets at Florida Cobra as well. So I would say we've come out with initial resources I think are really strong and certainly provide a great springboard. But I see a path definitely to be able to grow these up to become world scale copper deposits.
It sounds quite substantial. You said 2.2 billion pounds of copper.
Exactly.
At $4 per pound. We're what, like in the $9 billion range. And obviously you're not going to get all that out of the ground.
Obviously there's cost to extract it, and obviously there's all sorts of financial components to that. But if you look at what that means, just based on the Elida resource, how the market is valuing us right now, from from a market capitalization component per pound of copper in the ground, we're being valued, well below 1 cent per pound in the ground. So, I see that, and if I look at some of our peers, many of our peers with, similar type copper porphyry deposits, they're getting valuations anywhere from, 2 to 4 cents per pound. So for me, I see that as an opportunity. I really see that as a chance or the opportunity for a re-rating in terms of Element 29's market valuation. And obviously, we need to continue to execute, but we've been successful and continuing to show the merits and the growth potential of these deposits going forward.
Now, I'm sure that this is a question you ask yourself all the time, but here we got this great asset. And as you said, we're trading pretty undervalued on a relative basis in terms of pounds in the ground relative to other companies. What do you think needs to happen, or what do you think the market needs to see in order for the company to be more properly valued and for us to sort of see that re-rating?
I think seeing, renewed confidence that, the copper price is going to look stronger, the macro fundamentals of the commodity, that generally drives capital into the sector. And I'm seeing evidence of that already. So typically the small companies like Element 29, the micro cap exploration stage companies are slower to react. So as we start to see what's now happening, I see evidence in terms of many of the major copper producers. I've never seen them as aggressive as this, looking at opportunities. Because if you think of the supply crunch in copper, nobody knows that better than the big copper producers. So they're looking for the next big projects to put in their production profile or portfolio. And a great place to be looking for that is small companies like Element 29 and many of our peers. So the interest level has been extremely high. Obviously, we talk with a lot of individuals, peers, in our sector, and I think that's a common theme out there. So that's a great kind of a barometer as to where we are. And obviously, as you start to see that happen, M&A and consolidation is a great value driver in the sector. Typically that will start to get reflected in higher values. And I think just at a bottom line, just seeing copper break through $4 and get and start to touch what I hopefully would see as new all-time highs going into 2024. Certainly that draws attention to the sector, and that starts to bring in new investment. And just a wider understanding as to the copper thesis, the new demand, where is that coming from? Obviously, there's a lot of big drivers that are going to be components, and people are getting a better understanding of those. Specifically, expanding new uses for the metal in renewable power, EVs, etc. That's going to become a very, very significant component for copper demand that's currently not really factored in there. So I think the thesis is we're on the cusp of significant copper shortfalls, and that's going to accelerate over the next decade. So I think we are well positioned for that, and I do think 2024 is looking very bullish for that for the sector, and specifically for junior copper companies like Element 29.
So Central and South America have seen some pushback against mining, as well as some unrest of late. We got Panama, who basically ended mining in the country, despite it being a major driver of GDP. Yes. We got issues in Chile related to their constitution. Then I think we all kind of know what's happening right now in the Guyana-Sequiwa region. What can you tell us about Peru specifically, which might maybe ease investors' concerns about investing in a company that's in that sort of general area of the world?
That is a great question, and it's one I get fairly frequently, just given the geopolitical landscape. But the reason we're focused on Peru is that we've all worked there for decades, and I see Peru as kind of a bastion of stability in terms of all of South America and Central America. If you look at what mining contributes to their economy, it is a huge component to their economy, both in terms of exports and GDP. It's improving the economic livelihood of the country, reducing poverty, and Peru recognizes that. So they've been very proactive. They have a very well established mining legislation that lays out how the process moves forward, the permitting process, how you take projects from exploration through to development. And there's areas in Peru, like in any country, obviously there's areas that are more challenging from a community perspective versus other areas that are not. We're fortunate in terms of where we operate that, like I mentioned, we don't have any land use competition. So there's no agriculture, tourism, etc. on any of our project areas. That makes life a lot easier. So that's one big consideration that you need to look at. And we work, we really strive and we work hard to maintain very, very, proactive, community engagement, and that's the responsible thing to do. You don't do it because you have to. It's you do it because it is it is the responsible thing. The responsible process to go forward. In terms of maintaining those relationships. But I think Peru, compared to many other countries, they you don't see any talk of nationalization. Shutting down mines. They recognize how important, the mineral sector is to their economy. And they see that opportunity, specifically as the world's second largest copper producer after Chile. There's a real drive that they want to continue to grow that. And they recognize foreign investment is vital for that. And if you look at the companies that are involved in Peru, pretty much all of the major copper producers globally have a very strong presence there, and they're investing billions of dollars in the country. So, if it was a risky jurisdiction, you simply wouldn't see that. So no, we're very, very comfortable working in Peru. And that's backpinned by, strong political relationships. Canada the US and many countries globally have a free trade agreement in place with Peru. Canada and Peru have a bilateral investment treaty that protects foreign investment into the country. So there's a lot of boxes that get checked that, in my mind, really de-risk Peru as a jurisdiction. And that's why we like it.
So you guys have 4 zones in addition to the Elida project. Are there plans to start drilling into these zones in 2024?
Definitely, yes. Our other main projects, so the 4 projects that we have, Elida and Florida Cobra are kind of the 2 more advanced stage ones. On Florida Cobra, we have a very large porphyry copper target there. That's it's sitting down in where the project is located in the southern Peru copper belt, which is home to some of the world's largest copper mines and deposits. Just over 20 kilometers from Florida Cobra is Freeport-McMoRan's Cerro Verde mine, which is the world's 5th largest copper mine. And it's a monster. It's been in production since the 1970s or even earlier. And the current reserves there are still over 4 billion tons of 0.35% copper. So we're in a really good location. And on our project, we have a very large porphyry copper target that's been defined by both geophysics and geochemistry that's never been directly drilled. And if you look at the rarity or the scarcity of having a target like that in this very, very prolific belt that's never been tested, that's incredibly exciting for us. And certainly, I know it's garnered a lot of attention from many other companies that are watching that as well. And we're just finalizing our permitting process on that. So we expect definitely to be drilling there in 2024. Additionally, at Elida, we want to continue to do more drilling at Elida, and we see a great opportunity to grow that existing resource, both at depth and then laterally along strike. It remains open. And that resource at Elida is just on one of 5 targets or one of 5 porphyry centers that we've identified on the project area. So both projects, I think, are very exciting and certainly both merit drilling in 2024.
All right. So for investors watching, what does 2024 look like in terms of milestones, timelines? What should they be excited about if they are watching the company?
I think just getting the projects moving them to the next round of drilling at Elida, and just to show or unlock that expansion potential in the resource that we have there. And I think what could be very, very big, it would be the discovery opportunity or the potential to illustrate a very, very significant copper porphyry system on Florida Cobra at our Atravesado target that we have there. I think those 2 alone, we're very fortunate having multiple projects with very very attractive targets on them. So it's time for us to work and execute and deliver, and that's what we're going to work hard on next year.
Well, Steve, thanks so much for joining us today, and hopefully you'll come back on here in the future as the story continues to develop and we start to see some new drill results. Thanks very much, Steve. I look forward to the opportunity. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this interview, please smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Also, let me know what you think in the comments section. Thanks, everyone.